the year 2009 when BMW first came out with the all-new S1000RR that rewrote the rules of what makes a good performance motorcycle. What it did was that it got all the cutting-edge technology to the consumer, and that changed the game. Now though, there is a new BMW S1000RR that we first saw at the Milan show last year, and now finally it has come to India. Yes, that looks great, doesn't it? But it's not until unless you take a look up close at the BMW S1000RR that you realize just how good of a motorcycle it is. And yes, that sounds good as well, doesn't it? Let's address the elephant in the room first. Those headlights. Yes, they are not asymmetrical like how they used to be in the older S1000RR. And yes, perhaps the first thing that you would notice about this bike is the fact that it barely has any similarity to the older model. Now, looks are a subjective matter, but for me, I'm perfectly alright with it looking different because, well, it is an all-new motorcycle and surely it doesn't need to look like the older one. And when you stop drawing comparison, well, the next thing that will come to your mind is compactness. The whole profile of the motorcycle is sleek, and for those eagle-eyed amongst you, well, the gills have been retained in the fairing and that looks awesome. Also, the huge ram air intake between the LED headlamps gives it a lot of character. But what I liked the most was the tail section because, as you would see, there is no tail lamp. Well, no, that's not actually true as it is now a part of the indicator stocks, but it is a very nice design element. The idea behind this is that you can simply unscrew the whole tail light assembly and turn this into a track bike in no time. See, it's a pretty good looking motorcycle there. But now that you're done drooling over it, let's have a look at the performance because the S1000RR has always been about performance. And frankly, this one pulls out all the stops to live up to that expectation. The new BMW S1000RR is powered by an all-new 999cc inline 4-cylinder engine that makes a whopping 207 horsepower and 130 Nm of torque. What's new, other than the bump in power, is BMW's shift cam technology, which switches to a different camshaft above 9000 RPM to give it better top-end performance and yet manage to give good torque at lower than that mark as well. The engine comes mated to a 6-speed gearbox that comes with an auto flipper and a quick shifter, which means you can just simply go about the track without worrying about the clutch and hence making yourself faster. BMW has also fiddled around with the torque delivery as the motorcycle now makes more torque between 4500 to 8000 RPM. Add to that a long list of electronic rider aids which, depending on the variant, can get you features like wheelie control, traction control, slide control, adjustable engine braking levels, and all of this is further helped by 6-axis IMU, which takes lean angle into account to better judge the electronic intervention. And of course, the suspension is electronically adjustable and does its magic within 10 milliseconds. Now all of these settings can be adjusted through a dial that is mounted on the handlebar that lets you scroll through the menu and fiddle around with the help of a huge 6.5-inch color TFT instrument display. And there's Bluetooth connectivity to show things like navigation, calls and music. Lastly, wrapping up the list of luxuries is the heated handlebar grips, which is not what you would expect in a motorcycle like this, and it is a pleasant surprise. But in the case of the new S1000RR, it has been about weight saving more than it has been about extracting outright horsepower, as the new model is a whole 11 kilos lighter than the older one. There are 3 variants on offer: the Standard, the Pro and the Pro M Sport, which is the top of the line model that has all the bells and whistles, and that is the one that we rode at the track. Now this model is an additional 3.5 kilos lighter thanks to a lighter battery and carbon fiber wheels and a different seat which is best suited for track riding. What I really like though is that in this variant you get 3 additional riding modes called Race Pro modes, which lets you save the exact settings that you prefer in 3 different variations. For example, one could be for you, the other for your friend, or maybe the third one for wet track days, or even if you simply want to compare setups. This is a great addition. But all of that is well and good, but let's take up the biggest question, which is, how is the new BMW S1000RR to ride? Let's start with the way the BMW S1000RR pulls. It is a lot linear and smoother, and the shift to a different cam is barely noticeable as everything is gradual and progressive. The throttle response is just lovely, and under full acceleration, the front end feels light and floaty. and that would come down to a rider's preference on whether they like it or not. It is not an explosive motorcycle by any means like how its direct competitors are, but that's just the nature of an inline engine as opposed to, well, a V4 layout. The M Sport also gets carbon wheels, which means lesser rotational inertia, which means the motorcycle switches directions at the drop of a hat. So much so that it takes a bit of time to adjust to just how applicable this motorcycle is. But it is not all perfect. While it is quick to turn in and it is stable during high leans, the motorcycle feels twitchy during transitions. The way out for this is to constantly load the front or the rear tire by braking till the apex and getting on the gas as early as possible, because during that brief period when you don't, the bike just wants to stand up. What makes it worse is that the front end, which feels light and floaty at high speeds, lacks feedback to the rider despite being very capable. And the same thing happens when you are braking hard to enter a corner, with the motorcycle sliding and weaving about, which in itself wouldn't be a problem, but since the front has little feedback, you don't get the confidence to push your braking marker further. So clearly, this is not a point and scored motorcycle that makes time on braking and acceleration, but something that has the potential to gain great amount of time during cornering, but that is where the catch comes. You see, we had limited time with the motorcycle, so we could not really alter the setup. In order to extract the most out of it, you will need to have a good understanding on how a bike should be set up and for which kind of a racetrack. If you do, then this monster of a machine will be the friendliest liter class package and will ride lap after lap as if it's on rails. Lastly, the riding posture isn't as extreme as some other bikes in this segment, which means it will be a way better choice to ride on the streets than anything else out there, while bringing you all the performance that you need. So to sum it all up, it is a very forgiving and friendly motorcycle for those who just want to have an experience of a 200 plus horsepower motorcycle. But if it is lap times that you are after, you need to know how to set it up properly and find the permutation and combination of all the electronics on board that works right for you. And when you do, this will be an insane value for money motorcycle, taking it right to the top of the list of best performance motorcycles out there right now.